same. Screw you. What's wrong, poopy butts? What's wrong, poopy butts? You ready, Alexa? Afternoon, everybody. Thank you for joining us. Much appreciated that you've joined us on this busy Thursday afternoon. So today we're going to be talking a little bit more about interview skills for candidate attorneys, because we've picked up that some candidate attorneys do not know how to approach an interview or even how to prepare for an interview. We're just waiting for Alexa. I see she's running a little bit late, I believe. There she is on.
Hi, everyone.
Guys, feel free to unmute yourselves and put it on your videos. We like the interactivity. So what I was thinking is that we're going to look at approaching the actual job spec that you can find online, or as the case may be, on a flyer. So I'm going to quickly share my screen. Alexa, feel free to chime in.
Cool.
Okay, so I've just gone to Indeed, and here we can see the job specs. Well, what we refer to as job specs. For instance, let's look at this staff central consulting candidate attorney position. Now, the reason why I want to focus on this is so that you can understand what they are looking for, so that you can cater your motivation letter, cover letter, and maybe even your CV, if you really want to go that far, to what they're looking for. So now, obviously, here we see the first tip. The first keyword is Rivonia. So obviously, you want to somehow convey that you are familiar with the general location. For instance, in your cover letter, you say you are excited about appearing in the Randburg Magistrates Court. And of course, the age-old advice, always keep your English on par. Otherwise, you're going to be put onto the discard pile. I'll be perfectly honest, when I see spelling mistakes in CVs, that discard pile gets even higher, and it is rather high. And you can use tools like Grammarly to help you with your spelling and your grammar. It's free. Let me just show you. Nice thing about this tool is that it can plug into, for instance, Microsoft Word, Outlook. It's very useful. And it allows you to check for grammatical and spelling mistakes. And by doing so, you're already putting your best foot forward while doing less work while you're at it. So let's just have a look to see how the job spec. As you can see, there's just one issue that's a bit wordy. Fair enough, but otherwise it's just looking good. But use that tool, don't use it, but I would use it. Otherwise, you're just looking for another reason for somebody not to hire you. So here they don't really say too much about what they're looking for, although they do mention valid driver's license. So you can expect to do a fair amount of traveling and computer literacy, which is also very important. Guys, practice using a computer so that your prospective employee can feel that you know how to use a computer. It's something actually we test for as well when we're hiring. Alexa, your thoughts?
No, I fully agree with that. One thing we definitely ask about is computer, like how you are able to work on a computer, what you're able to do, the different aspects of the computer, Excel, Outlook, Word. So definitely practice having all the computer skills you could possibly have, especially if you have a wait, if you're waiting to get articles, if you're waiting for an interview, you have that time to just go over, even if you Google it. I mean, we all know there's a YouTube video for everything these days. So just understand at least the basics. So when we ask the question, you don't have to giggle first.
100%, 100%. Now, you'll notice that a lot of employers ask for good academic transcripts, and sometimes most candidate attorneys, well, most of us when we were at university, we were focusing on passing, not getting onto the dean's list necessarily. However, you can obviously always deprioritize and devalue a good academic transcript by rather motivating yourself on the motivation letter and in your CV. I'll be honest with you, a beautiful CV that's easy to the eye is already um, put well a step ahead of the rest. So that's what I would recommend regarding looking at these job specs. Now you've got a feel for them. Now you can draft motivation letters. For instance, this firm, you can Google them, you can see what they're into. Strongly recommend that you actually do research on the firm that you're applying to. This flatters the firm, makes them show that, hey, you're willing to go the extra mile, you're willing to look what they do, see who the role players are, and such. I mean, here I can see exactly what they're about, their mission statement, their areas of practice, right? And when I start talking about this, they'll think, okay, at least you did some research, you went the extra mile, right? And that speaks volumes. I'll be honest with you. At working at Bruno Simao Attorneys, we once received a CV which grossly exaggerated how long the firm had been in existence for. And that CV was quite aggressively placed on the discard pile. So do your research. It shows that you know what you're talking about. Now I'm going to stop sharing my screen and give Alexa a little bit of airtime while I drink some water.
So I actually have something that I wanted to talk about. The cover letter etiquette. So it's actually really important that your cover letter is the first thing that stands out for us, because that's the first thing we see, and it's the first thing we read about you and who you are as a person. So there's just a few things that obviously we need. First of all, don't skip it. Never skip the cover letter. Always have a cover letter with your CV. Don't make it too long. Remember, as people that are doing interviews, we're reading hundreds of these. Like, I think for the last run of interviews we had, we got 300 odd CVs in the first run. There was still more that came afterwards. So if I see your cover letter and it's 4 pages, I can guarantee you right now I'm not reading it. So not too long, very, very concise. One thing I like, and I think Bruce and my principal liked as well, add a picture of yourself. So when we read your cover letter, we know who we're talking to. We see this person, we see who is directing their life story to us. Always check your spelling and your grammar, especially if in the first line you say, I pay great attention to detail, but then there was no attention to the detail of that letter. So always check, triple check, quadruple check, send it to your best friend's cousin to check, double check. Then speak to us. If you are coming to me and you're giving me your cover letter and your CV, speak to us. Speak to Bruno Simao attorneys. Speak directly to them, because if you just have dear sir or ma'am, I'm pretty sure you sent that to 500 other firms. When you speak to us, you actually you get our attention. Like, okay, this is to me directly. Then in a short, so what Bruce was talking about, go and research the firm. Why? There are so many reasons. And when we had a girl in our previous interview that came and she wanted to do all this micro, I don't even know these big words, robotics, and you didn't look at our company's website. You didn't go through it and say, oh, they do tax, they do property, they do commercial. Not once did she actually say one thing that we did and how she can connect to our firm. So in a short paragraph, once you've researched the firm, you're into tax law, you did all these tax things, you've worked for a tax practitioner during varsity, you did got great marks in tax because we do tax. So immediately we're like, oh, so there's actually quite an interest in one thing that we do. So in a short paragraph, tell us why you would fit in at our firm and why our firm needs you, in just a very short little paragraph. Then conclude your cover letter by saying thank you, because like I said, we're going through hundreds of these, and it's actually quite nice. In the last paragraph it says, thank you for taking the time to read my CV and consider my application. I mean, fine, I know we're not going to be petty or anything, but it's kind of nice, and it sticks in our head like, okay, so this is also a person that's caring, a person that really wants to be a part of our firm, especially if because you don't know how the firm is. Our firm is very loving and friendly and family orientated. That is something that touches us. Yes, if it's someone who's heartless and doesn't care, they're going to be like, cool, thanks. But always put it in just in case you get a person like me. So yeah, that's my cover letter 2 cents.
I tend to agree with Lexa. Now, something else that I found actually works and is quite effective, and that is trying to establish a rapport with the reader of the letter. Now, you might think, okay, how can I do that? It's a letter, for goodness sake. Mention your achievements, use action words, make it sound like you want to be out in the trenches, so to speak, right? The moment you start using passive language, you start to disengage the reader. So that's just a little tip that I picked up reading this last batch of CVs. And something I have done in my own CV myself is I use action words, I use the active voice, and I mention achievements. And that will definitely assist you because you want to show that you're a great fill for the position. So that's what I would recommend doing in the cover letter. Now, this CV would obviously follow the same sort of logic. Use action words, the active voice, and also short, sweet, to the point. Mention achievements. Right? Not, for instance, I won the first race in primary school. For instance, in your previous position, what did you achieve there? Did you create a new product to place on the market? Did you were you the best employee of the month, for instance? That sort of information is actually quite notable, and it encourages your employer to actually dig a little bit more to find out a little bit more about you, is more interested and actually wants to meet with you and have an actual interview versus your CV being placed on the discard pile. Alexa, your thoughts?
Yeah, 100%. And another thing that I think would be great. Sorry, I was covered in. I don't know what that was. Um, know what's going on. So if for say you come to our firm. So if you look at our websites, you'll see we do predominantly evictions, property law, tax related stuff. Before you come to the interview, Google what is currently going on in the property world, what is currently going on in the tax world, and put that out there, because that's something we're going to be like, oh, that's, we might not even know that because we're so busy working, we're not Googling every 5 minutes. So put out things that you think we might be interested in, that you know. So when you come to the interview, it's something we can discuss. In a small paragraph, obviously we're looking at a one pager here, so very small paragraphs, but talk about what a new development came out in property law that you're quite interested in, a new tax thing that came out, or whatever the company is that you're going to interview at. Make sure you know what's going on, and show in your cover letter or whatever you're putting out there that you are the kind of person that goes out and finds information, because as a candidate, that's what you're going to do a lot. You're going to do a lot of research, you're going to do a lot of finding out things.
Absolutely. Alexa's absolutely spot on. Your job as a candidate attorney is to learn and place what you've learned into practice. So the moment you can actually tell your interviewer something they didn't know, automatically you've caught my attention for one. I don't know about Alexa, but I love learning things I did not previously learn. Well, no, my apologies. So I think let's turn now to the interview skill portion. What do you think, Alexa?
Yeah, let's jump into it.
Perfect, perfect. So now, more often than not, you'll get an email saying, hi, the interview's on this date and time. Please be there at this time, or please be 45 minutes early. I am going to be blunt with you. That is your interviews already begun. They want to see how you react to that email, how you react and how you comply with the instructions. All right. For instance, I get a confirmatory email saying, hi, yes, thank you, I'll be there. Great. That's a confirmation. That's already a positive in my mind. You've already confirmed something. Because as a candidate attorney, and I, for one, will drive this into every candidate attorney's head, not violently, but they must confirm everything in writing. And there you've always shown that you already know that everything confirmed in writing is the way to go. So you confirm in writing, say, thank you for this opportunity. I'll be there on time. Be there on time. Please do not be there an hour before the time. And there's a saying in our profession that if you're early, you're wasting time. If you're late, you're messing the judge around. Unfortunately, it is true. Try to be on time. Yes, 5 minutes before, I I would be perfectly happy with that. An hour before, I would not be happy because there you've already started to occupy one of my members of staff's attention for time that they could have spent on something else. So bear that in mind. And also as a candidate attorney, you need to get to a point where you're managing your time down to the minute. And it's not always easy, but showing that you're able to do this at the interview portion of the work experience or the work journey is a great way to make sure that you are ahead of your colleagues and you catch the attention of your potential employer. And also, something we do at our firm is that we ask them to come early, in particular 45 minutes early, to do a particular test. Now, I'm not going to go into details about the test, right? But there are some candidates who thought that the 45 minutes was, oh, just to make sure you're in time, and they actually came a few minutes before they were to be interviewed, and it there were unfortunate casualties owing to this, for lack of a better expression. So adhere to their instructions. If need be, you can give them a ring, but if they liaising with you by email, liaise with them by email. There's a written record. If you're panicking, you can always look at your email. I know some people tend to panic and think something happened that might not have happened, or was said that might not have been said. Hence, I recommend an email. It's in black and white. You can't really argue with that. Alexa?
So another thing that I find really, really important. So, as a candidate attorney, as a legal practitioner, whatever you're going into in the legal field, one thing you're definitely going to do is you're going to appear in court. You're going to stand before a judge, you're going to stand before a magistrate, and you're going to fight your client's case tooth and nail because you want to win. You want to win that case at all costs. So when you walk into an interview, pretend that the interviewers are the judges and the magistrates. Don't walk in and be like, hi, my name's Alexa. I just finished my LLB. You walk in, hi, my name's Alexa. I just finished my LLB. And you have to command the room. You need to make them know
Yes.
that you are there, because we can't look for soft spoken people. We don't want, we know our opposition. We know the people that we're currently fighting against, cases against. Those people are going to stand on you. We have one person that I literally put my senior candidate on. I won't even go to because that person would crush me. I'm too soft spoken for that person. So when you walk into the interview, make sure you command the room. Ask questions. I can't personally stand when I've just spent an hour asking you questions, grilling you on what are you going to do for our firm. And then at the end of it, you're like, okay, cool, thank you. Ask questions. Ask us what is the environment of your firm? What do you work on the most in your firm? Because some firms are general. So yes, you're gonna Google them and it's gonna say family, commercial, property. But like we have all of that on our website, but we specialize in property and evictions. So ask questions and like talk to us, actually engage with us. I see we have a hand up. Would you like to unmute yourself?
Sheila? Let me see. Sheila, can you unmute yourself?
Or was that an accident?
Ah,
They wanted to applaud.
congrats, Alexa.
Thanks.
Okay, but Alexa's absolutely right. You must command the room. That doesn't mean you necessarily need to shout, right? Sometimes commanding the room can be accomplished by using pauses, using certain language, making certain points that are unfathomable in the legal system, right? There are various ways of commanding the legal system, so do not necessarily equate it to shouting. In fact, a magistrate might even be, what's the polite word for
Taken
angry?
aback.
Yes, might be taken aback at being shouted at. In fact, in one of the matters that we dealt with last year, that's exactly what happened. The opponent was shouting at the magistrate, and I'm not saying it was a factor that the magistrate considered, but the points that we were arguing carried a lot more weight because we were certain in our position. Now, that's all great, and but how do you apply it to the position where you feel like you're almost begging for a job? Yes, I know how some of you feel. Yes, fair enough. We've all been there. But it's not you begging for a job. What you're actually doing is making a case for why you should be employed, why it's a good idea for the firm to employ you, why I don't want to say you deserve, but why you should get that position. And now I just want to caution you guys, try not to come across as entitled because some employers might be taken aback and be concerned that during your employment there could be problems. So, yes, command the room. Don't be entitled. Speak to not at the interview, but with. If that makes any sense, right? Um, so feel at ease to say, okay, thank you for this opportunity to meet with you all. Thank you, Jacob, Alexa, so and so. Mentoring people by name is a great way to already get a foothold on their favorite list. Because believe it or not, we are all psychologically primed to respond when we hear our names. So they will be more attentive to what you're saying. So if you want to emphasize something in particular, you say, okay, so now you want to command the room, Alexa, or Alexa, we want to command the room. Instantly, the attention's drawn, they peek up, the ears stand on end, so to speak, and they're listening. Don't abuse this, otherwise they're gonna you're gonna come across as a bit of a loon. Yes, but it's definitely something that I've seen work. And another tactic is to not just spew verbal diarrhea. I know I am guilty at that. Yes, Alexa, I see that expression.
Well.
At least I admit it, right? You want to say, unfortunately, you're going to have to feel out your interviewer. Do they want to speak? Do they want you to speak? Do they want you to speak less? Do they want you to say more? In other words, say something of substance, right? So you have to gauge that and you have to meet that need. Believe it or not, that's also something that you've been tested in when they are busy interviewing you. Everything is actually a test, in my opinion. How you're dressed, how you sit in the chair that, and obviously you're going to be given the most uncomfortable chair on purpose, or even how you drink from a glass of water. You'd be surprised at how weirdly people drink from a glass of water, right? Unfortunately, this is the sort of attention we give to you when you're being interviewed because when in court, you've got the gallery watching you, 100 eyes burning through your back, and you've got the magistrate or judge wanting to proceed to the next matter and looking for a good reason to either move on or grant the matter or dismiss it. So you need to be able to work under pressure, and showing that you can work under pressure in the interview is a great way to score brownie points. Alexa, your thoughts?
Yeah, so I was also thinking when I said ask questions. I know it's difficult because believe me, I wasn't there that long ago when I was sitting in front of my principal and my old senior, and I wanted to open my mouth and speak, but I'm pretty sure I just drooled. So I get it. I get when you're sitting in the hot seat, it's very nerve wracking. Take a deep breath before the people walk in, or even as they walk in. Just take a deep breath and just remember they were there too. Like I know it's intimidating and they're looking at you like, do you want this job hard enough? Do we need you? Do you think you're going to be good enough? They were all in that same seat that you were sitting in. So they understand that you are nervous. So prepare your questions. Just think about what you want to know, whether it's about this interview, whether about the next one you're about to go on to. If obviously you're not gonna have one interview. When you put out your CV, you put it out to a couple places, so you might not get this one, but let this interview prepare you for the next. So ask certain questions like, um, what are the responsibilities of this current role, this current position, so they can tell you these are the things that we want you to do, these things that you're going to be doing as a candidate. This is your life from now on. This is how it's going to be. Also, you as the interviewee, you sort of need to understand, which is why we're actually having this specific webinar, what it is that you are going into. So they're going to tell you, are you going to work late nights, you're going to research a lot, you're going to go to court, but you also need to understand what role you are applying for. We go to our interviews like, I want to be a candidate attorney, they told me that's the next step. But also understand, so if you go into the interview, ask the questions. What is this role? What are the tasks that you are going to do? What's the environment of the firm? How do you what is the ideal candidate in this position? Because candidate attorney, no matter where you go, is copy and paste. We hate our life from beginning to end. That's just it. So I love my life, but anyway, use the interview that you're in to prepare for the interview that you're going to next. Even if you get that job, I mean, that's great, but at least you know that you prepared, because that is something that you're going to have to do going forward. You might lose this case, but that case is going to prepare you for the next case. So everything you do from the minute you start your interview process, you start putting out your CV, you are actually working towards your articles, because everything you do from that moment is actually preparing you for then. And that's something I didn't know and kind of found out a year after I got admitted. So I hope that in these sessions, we can take those little knowledgeable aspects that we've learned later and help you going forward, if you know what I mean.
Absolutely, I agree with Alexa. You could, in fact, I must be honest, I'm often taken aback when an interviewee does not ask questions.
Definitely.
It shows a lack of desire to acquire knowledge, to learn, to grow, to better yourself. And that says all sorts of red flags in my mind. Ask, what can I expect? How does it work? Not that I think I don't know what a candidate attorney is, but tell me, what in your mind is candidate attorney? I see Ian has joined us. Hello, Ian.
Hi, Ian. You just need to put on your
You're still muted.
Hi everyone, sorry that I'm late, and thanks for allowing me to give a quick chat. I just want to compound on what Bruce has said. The more you ask questions in a candidate attorney or even in an attorney's role interview, the better your chances are of impressing. As I've said in previous webinars, you must do your research not only on the firm to determine what areas of law are offered, but also on the directors to determine what their functions are. And if you're able to do your research on the people at the firm, you're most likely able to place who your prospective principal will be. And this will give you a good idea on the indication of type of work that you'll be venturing into, as well as allow you to, in the interview, discuss that area of work and then broaden your base to just see, will you be working or cycling through the firm to be exposed to different areas of law. I know the big 5 to 6 month rotations. Small firms do not do rotations. You get put into a place and you usually get kept there.
It's absolutely true. Thank you, Ian. I couldn't agree more with you. Finding out shows that you want to understand what is expected of you, right? And if you convey it as such, I am very certain that your interviewer will be impressed. And I see B's got hands up. Yes, B?
Good afternoon.
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 Yes.
How are you guys?
Good, thanks,
Good.
Sal.
How are you?
I'm good, thank you. I'd like to inquire about something. I went on an interview last month, at a small firm in Redbank, and I think part of the reason I didn't get that job was because I have a business. So I researched about it, and then I found out that as a candidate legal practitioner, you're not supposed to be registered with any other entity. How true is that?
What do you mean by registered with any other entity? There's a distinction we want to make
I
because,
Yes.
yes?
Oh, I have a small ice cream business that is registered.
Okay, so I take it from what you've just mentioned, you've got a PTY.
Yes.
Yeah, and you're a director, correct?
Yes.
Okay. So if I'm not mistaken, the uniform regulations, well, the uniform rules for legal practitioners, there is a specific prohibition against a candidate attorney occupying any office that they might receive remuneration in. Now, typically, directorship falls under that umbrella term. So, unfortunately, you can't be a director and a candidate attorney simultaneously. What you can do, and this is what I myself personally did, is you can ask the Law Society, well, as it then was, you can ask the LPC for consent to do so. You would just have to motivate and explain it. And also just look at the regulations, see how you go about doing this. And a phone call to the LPC wouldn't hurt either. So that is the position. What my personal experience was, I asked with a bare minimum of information, and they granted it to me with a smile on their faces. They just want to make sure that you follow the correct procedures, and they feel that your position as a candidate is not being compromised. Again, this is to look after the welfare of candidate attorneys. I
Oh,
hope, yeah, I hope that answers your question.
yes, it does. Thank you.
It's a pleasure.
Maybe be just make sure when you go into your next interview that you've done that research, because one thing I know with my principal is he would love that. He would love to know that you have a business mind, you're business savvy, you've tried something, you've started somewhere. So the person who said no because you have a business, maybe they want you for them and that's all. But I can guarantee you, if that was in your CV and my principal had seen it, that would have definitely caught his eye. So don't stop what you're
Yeah.
doing. Research what you can do going forward and continue with it, because we like the business minded. We like people that go out and do things.
So right
Yes.
now, while I'm still doing my research about this, what would you advise me to do in terms of my CV? Should I remove that business on my CV, or should it still be there, or should I just include it as a hobby?
Well, to be perfectly honest with you, I view it as a great plus.
Yeah, I wouldn't take it out. Definitely
But
not.
I think maybe in your CV make it clear that that once you become a candidate, and you can immediately seek permission from the LPC for the ability to run this, well, to occupy the offices of director simultaneously while being a candidate attorney. I think at least that way you're putting their mind at ease, and I think that's actually what's key.
Oh, all right. Thank you.
Okay, I see. Okay, I saw another hand. I think was
Tato, what's your
yes.
question, my man?
Good day. Hello, everyone.
Hello, how you
Hello.
doing?
I'm good. I'm good. I'm good. Thanks, and you, sir.
Good, thanks. Good, thanks.
Thank you for the seminars. I'm finding it very helpful.
I'm
I
glad.
actually had an interview myself. I think it was early last month, and so far I haven't got a call back. So, but I think one of my issues from that interview was that I didn't ask enough questions, as you said. But the question I want to ask is, if like if I go to another interview, I want to know what do principal attorneys ask more for of the candidates during the interviews. I want to like, 'cause I was expecting more technical questions about the type of work they do, because I did research. I did Google what they do. I wanted to make sure that if they asked me what I could accomplish or what I could offer them, that I would sound like I know what I'm saying. But I will ask more. The questions were more casual. They were asking about my situation at home, like where if I'd be willing to relocate in certain places, stuff like that. So I'm just curious, like what do principal attorneys ask of the candidates more, or during their, like what are the more common questions a principal would ask of their candidate during interviews?
Well, something I've asked a few times, and I'm going to be perfectly honest, is to put the candidates on edge is, so tell me about yourself.
I'll
I
ask
hate
questions
that
like that
question.
actually.
I ask these questions because they're so open-ended. Whatever comes to mind is what's closest to mind. So it also allows an insight into how you think, right? So that's something I ask. Alexa, she asks quite a few questions as well.
Well, I think so. With our firm, what we also do is when we choose like a certain amount of candidates, we also send out these questions, and they generally cover the aspects that we do in our firm. So a lot of the questions I get to ask is based on those questions because I do mostly evictions in my personal capacity, so I get to ask questions about the evictions. So when you do the research on the company and you see what they do, at least know the basics. Because one thing I will always ask is, do you know what the process is for an eviction? Do you know what the basics, letter of the monitor to vacate, application? So they could possibly ask you things specific to their area of law, which is something I love to ask.
Thank you.
And again, I think the questions are also, well, from my perspective, and I think Alexa's perspective, it's more to see how far until you become uncomfortable, because again, in court, it is horribly cutthroat. And
And please just know the difference between an action and an application.
These
That I
guys,
know.
Just know the difference.
you'd be
Thank you.
surprised. Okay,
I see we have more
yes,
hands.
I see B's hand is up again.
Did it go back down?
Okay, B, I found the wording of the rule, and I'm just pasting it into the chat. That's the wording on the restriction of you occupying another office that gives you remuneration. And then they talk about the prior written consent of the council, in other words, the LPC. So maybe you can, and I don't know if this is possible, you can ask them for their consent before you approach a law firm to become a candidate attorney. I doubt it's possible because they track candidates according to a unique number that they assign to you, but it's worth a try. And you can even mention it to the principal. Hi, I tried to phone them. They said that only once I become a candidate attorney can I actually get the consent. And at least it'll show the principal that, hey, you've actually read the rules and the regulations, and you are a self-starter. You've already tried to fix fix something that could be a potential problem. So again, this is something that, again, puts you ahead of the rest. Ian, do you have any other tips?
Just this one question from Sheila. Did you see it? I actually don't know, and it's very interesting. Does the LPC prohibit against being a CA and studying and receiving a bursary stipend?
Sheila, to answer your question briefly, you can only become a candidate attorney once you've obtained your LLB degree. The Law Society of South Africa, as it previously was regulated, you were able to enter into 5-year articles. However, the position has changed with the Legal Practice Council, and you are now only allowed to enter into a 2-year articles once you have received your qualification.
Now, Sheila, if you were referring to that you've already got your LLB and you're studying further, then according to the rule that I've copied into the chat box, I do not see any prohibition, as the last part of rule 22151 specifically says that hold or occupy any office in respect of which he or she received any form of remuneration. Now, what's key is here is you're not holding any office. Office like
Yeah.
shareholder, director, trustee of a trust, executor or executrix, as the case may be. And again, even if that is the case, you can always get consent from the LPC. So it's not really a big problem. Just make sure you adhere to the rules or you will suffer a terrible fate. Trust me on that when I say that. So back to interview skills. So now you've gone through now you're sitting down, you're busy in going through the interview. Now, believe it or not, there is an actual process. Right? First, the interviewer will try and get a feel for you, right? Almost almost at your at rest point, so they understand how you are normally, right? And that is just to see how you would be on any given day at the firm. Now, it's not always easy for that state of mind to be entered by an interviewee for obvious reasons, but nevertheless, we do try to look for that and see what you're like. And then from what I've seen and from my interviews that I've had, not necessarily where I was interviewing, right? The process was they would ask a little bit about you, try and understand who you are and what you are like. Then they'll focus on the technical questions that they may or may not have given you, or they may ask technical questions. Now, bear in mind the amount of weight that's associated with technical questions that they ask off the hip, so to speak. There's minimal weight to that because they are asking on the fly. They'll ask, for instance, do you know what the content of rule, let's pick a random number, 53, or the magistrates court's rules? Do you know what that means? And most people would not know off the cuff, right? Some would. So that's why very little weight is attributed to that. However, where the large amount of weight is attributed is where you're given written questions to answer in writing beforehand. That's where you need to be on point. Sorry, I see some messages.
So B, I understand that because I think in my interview at this firm before I came here, they also asked me this random act, and I was just like, well, that's done. But got the job, didn't answer the question there. What I personally say when I don't know something, especially when it's you don't want to look stupid, but at the same time you want them to, feel some type of way, is you say like I don't know that act, but it's definitely something that I'm going to research as soon as this interview is done, and I'm so glad that I can actually take something from this interview and learn going forward. You haven't answered the question, but you thank them for teaching you something.
Good move. I'll remember
How
that,
I would
Alexa.
answer it.
Alexa, if I may just proffer a bit of caution to that type of response, it also comes off as you're going to learn after the fact. So you're not going to be able to learn off of the fly. So, for example, if they say there's a portion of the Law of Evidence Amendment Act and they discuss a portion of it, it's going to be foolish to say, I'm not familiar with it, but I'll go and research it, as opposed to rather saying, I'm not as familiar as I should be when I will be in practice. However, I'm going to dedicate more time to learning these aspects, particularly in practice. To give a more practical answer as opposed to saying, I don't know it, but I'll go and study it.
But I'll go search it, yeah. So that's the difference between someone who's 1 year admitted and someone who's a lot more admitted. See, I'm still learning with you guys. I'm only 1 year admitted.
I think Bruce and I are the senior practitioners in this group.
Yes.
Be careful, Ian. Senior practitioner, senior legal practitioner has a particular term, is a reserved phrase. Be careful about using that.
My submissions were carefully chosen and articulated with particular wording, my dear brother. Articulation was more senior as opposed to senior.
He got you there.
Yes.
Doesn't happen often.
Sorry, guys, but my brother and I do tend to banter quite a bit. But anyway, back to what we were talking about. I feel that we've spoken about what you can expect from most interviews. Um, just a word of encouragement. I'm not gonna lie, you can ask my brother. I literally sent out 300 copies of my CVs. Sorry, I sent out my CV to 300 different law firms to get articles.
It's literally a matter of, instead of throwing a line in and hoping to catch a fish, you need to throw a stick of dynamite in and wait for what blows up and comes to the surface. But
Yes, so,
be very specific. If you're doing a cover letter, do it for that specific firm. Research, do your cover letter for that firm. That cover letter should take you 15 minutes to write. I'm going to be very honest. If it's going to take you more than 15 minutes to write, it's not going to be read. Half a page
yeah.
cover letter, max. As attorneys, we don't have time to sit around, wonder what you're trying to get at.
Oh, yes, please, punctuation, please. Sorry, I forgot about that. Punctuation, guys.
Very importantly, when we scan through CVs and cover letters and introductory letters and all of the other letters that get sent, one spelling mistake gets your CV thrown away. I don't
And,
want to sit and teach a candidate attorney how to spell.
you know, especially as Word has built-in spell check, it often boggles my mind.
Yeah, know how to use Grammarly. If you do honestly have a problem, because we understand some people do have those problems, learn how to use Grammarly. Believe me, it's your best friend.
And
Yes.
just as a side note, for all of the people who aren't as fortunate to have ready access to laptops or computers with Microsoft Word, if you go to a public library, most of them do have access to computers or to public Word items that you can use and implement for your benefit. If you are sending it via email on a smartphone, by all means, please read it twice and then thrice. You will do yourself that favor.
In fact, to compound, as Ian says, to compound what my learned brother has said, often when I draft correspondence, before I send it, I actually go to bed and wake up the next morning and then read it and send it.
Those are just
Believe it or
angry emails.
no, not really.
For me, they are.
Alexis told me to try and be a little bit less evil, so
Yeah, no, he's just plain rude sometimes, and I can't.
you lie. But anyway,
Litigation is cutthroat. It doesn't always have to be cutthroat.
yes, no, agreed. But now, guys, thank you so much for joining us today. I see it's already almost 10:02. We've definitely gone over the amount of time that we had originally allocated for this endeavor. But thank you. We hope these tips help you guys sincerely. And also, dress for success. It'll help you feel a little bit more confident. It actually does work.
And even if you can't afford the expensive stuff, just dress neatly. That is successful.
Absolutely. But
Thank you very much,
all.
everyone. Thank you very much, Bruce, Alexa. I look forward to the next session with everyone.
Thank you,
Thanks,
guys.
guys. We'll see you next time.
Thank you all. Bye.